Hello and welcome to the Injective Quarterly Webinar with Token Relations. I am Jacqueline Melanik, the founder of Token Relations, and joining me today are Injective Labs Head of Business Development, Mirza Udin, and Director of Engineering, Boyan, I'm going to mess up your last name, Angelkowski. Is that
Yes,
close enough? Yeah?
it's close enough. Yes,
That's pretty good.
How are you guys?
we were doing
Good.
great. Thank you. How about
Yeah?
yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk with you guys today. And before we get started, I want to share some background and context. Kind of obviously, you two know, but for the Injective community, Injective has seen a number of new developments this past quarter with the launch of the EVM mainnet, community buyback, and iBuild, which I'm excited to get into during this discussion. To start off, I want to talk about, I think, arguably, probably the biggest thing is the launch of the Injective EVM. And the last time we spoke about it, I believe, was in August. So for both of you, kind of to set the stage, what would you say was like the impetus behind this launch of Injective's EVM? And then how does it kind of play into the network's overall mission to be this blockchain for finance?
Yeah, I can kick off, and then Boyan, you can add on. I would say it really began way long ago than what people realize. So Injective initially had plans to build an EVM layer as soon as we began back in 2019, I would say. But due to some technical inefficiencies that Boyan can delve into better than I, we sort of scrapped that plan because we were trying to create this really performant order book. We were trying to create a very performant smart contracting layer. And at that time, EVM wasn't up to par with our needs in terms of creating a high throughput chain. So we sort of at that time ditched the plan and went with WASM or WebAssembly. And it has worked out great. So on WASM today, we pretty much have every major application that exists in the world of WASM and Cosmos. But it's limited, right? Like the amount of developer activity, et cetera, is limited. So on one hand, we were able to achieve having high throughput, a really performant chain, a really, really performant decentralized exchange for perps and many other assets. But we lacked that developer avenue that EVM still enjoys. So it was always in the back of our mind. But what we didn't want to do is scrap WASM because we still believe that that is still a great smart contracting layer for building high performance sort of applications. So when we were building out EVM, we wanted to sort of marry the two together, which was actually a very, very difficult process where we wanted to have both WASM and EVM coexist under the same umbrella. It sounds easy on paper, but it's actually very, very difficult to do.
Yeah.
So we started, I would say, officially about 2.5 years ago, where we began planning it out. It's like, okay, now that WASM has been a success for us, how do we build EVM in a way where it works in tandem? And uh, Boyan can add the finer details, but right now, what you get on Injective is you have EVM and WASM coexisting. You can use the same exact token across both. You don't need to bridge between the two. You can use the same wallets. You have the same wallet address. So it's effectively for the end user, you don't realize that we've added EVM even. You can now get in with MetaMask, you can get it with Kepler, you can get in with any wallet you want. But from a developer standpoint, it opens up, I would say, 90% of the crypto user base that is still on EVM, where now you can have way more applications and they can share the same liquidity, they can share the same assets. So it's just a way to introduce more builders to Injective and the great sort of modules we built. But that's sort of the quick and dirty of the history. But Boyan, I'll let you add on as well.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit here. When we're designing this from a technical standpoint, the biggest question we had to ask is what is it that we're going to offer to developers that doesn't exist in the outside in the industry right now? And just like Mirza explained, one of the key features that we are releasing with the EVM is this multi-VM environment where developers can easily just deploy their smart contracts that already exist on Ethereum to Injective and have access to our native layer where we have the exchange module, which is one of the probably the only fully decentralized on-chain order book. And within your smart contracts, you can easily tap into the native layer of Injective, get all of the benefits like low gas fees, sub-second block times, instant finality, and much more. We're just deploying as a normal EVM smart contract.
Mm-hmm. So is that, I mean, what was the process like for that? as someone running engineering, I can't imagine it was like an easy feat for you guys. And then on the feature front, thinking about like the best parts of the EVM, what are you really bringing to Injective? I think you touched on it a little bit before, but how did you kind of like mix and merge the two, so to speak?
Yeah, so we started with the question, what are we going to bring to the EVM developers, just like I said, that they don't have right now. And when we started designing Injective in general, we first deployed, as Mirza said, I just want to reiterate the point, we first deployed on EVM, on Ethereum. And what we realized is to have financial applications, we cannot have 14-second block times. We cannot have confirmations. It has to be instant. It has to be finalized instantly. And all of this were packaged into the Cosmos SDK, which we kind of reinvented. And always in the back of our minds was this EVM compatibility that we wanted to introduce. So from day one, we were the only Cosmos ecosystem that introduced Ethereum compatible accounts. Which is why MetaMask was available to sign transactions on Injective from day one. So we always had in the back of our minds that we have to have EVM compatibility at some point. So 2.5 years ago, we started designing how this is going to look like, and some of the key features, the benefits that the EVM, or I would say multi-VM environment brings to the table is a shared state with the L1. This includes balances, account details, liquidity, and much more. We have full compatibility with Solidity. You can deploy from a simple ERC20 to any complex dApp or smart contract easily using the tools that we already are familiar with, like Foundry, Hardhat, and etc. We have instant finality and deterministic execution, which is, we believe, one of the most critical parts for any financial application. So instant finality means that once a transaction is confirmed on the chain, it's settled and there is no going back. We believe that this is something that any financial application needs, and we've enabled it on the Injective chain. And finally, low gas fees and sub-second block times, which is also in this moving market as we see today is very critical for financial applications.
Mhm. I mean, Ethereum has one of the strongest and most diverse developer communities across all of Web3. And I'm thinking kind of out loud for Injective, like how does that kind of change the positioning when speaking with developers, investors, institutional partners, now that you guys have this like entryway into the space as well?
I think it's hugely beneficial because as someone who's been here for 5 years, Boyan's been here for 6, the biggest bottleneck we've always had at Injective is when we're talking to a potential institution or a potential builder. 9 times out of 10, they'll pretty much say, hey, the things you built, the modules you've built are so good, it's groundbreaking, it's better than everyone else. But we only know how to program in Solidity. Like we don't know Rust, we don't know how to build in Wasm. So the
Right.
first thing it opens is a whole swath of new developers, not just like new developers, but people that have been on the back burner for us for the longest time. We're just waiting at the wings to deploy. A good example is this: on our Wasm mainnet, we had maybe 20 applications on mainnet. With EVM, even on day one, we have more than 40 now. And that's just day one, which is kind of exciting for us because it's way easier for developers to deploy. And then on top of that, they just get access to all of the things, all the heavy lifting we've already done. For instance, all the big market makers like Galaxy Digital, et cetera, that are integrated onto the chain, they have access to that liquidity now. They have access to the community we built. For the first time, they can access a new user base. For instance, usually when you build an EVM, it's almost like a very PvP environment where if you're on Avalanche, you're trying to get users from Near or get users from Ethereum. But this is the first time where if you deploy on Injective, you can get the user base that exists in the world of Wasm and Cosmos, which might seem small in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a significant user base that EVM developers have never been able to tap into. And vice versa. Like if you were on Wasm, you're restricted from this huge, huge user base. So one thing that's I should emphasize sort of is all of the great applications we've built to date. Like we built Helix internally, which is a top performing perp dex. There are many other lending protocols. There are many other, let's say, liquid staking protocols. They were restricted to this Wasm user base before, but now we've just opened up their channels to get access to more users, more developer activity, more liquidity. Um, So I think that's what's really unique and different about it, because as we were going through this question, one thing that always we thought about is the world doesn't need another EVM chain. There's like 100 of them. No one
Sure.
cares. No one
Right.
cares about like the next high performance EVM, whatever buzzword you want to use. What people care about is like, is it easy to build here? And is there
Mhm.
users? And can I make money here? Right. To put it very crassly, I guess. Like, is there new yield opportunities to be had here? I think that's what we want to go for, and that's the niche we wanted to carve out, where we wanted to say, hey, if you want to just have a EVM chain, you can deploy anywhere. There's like 100 options. But if you
Yeah.
want a chain that's like ready made for finance, where you have templates to build financial applications, or that already has a community and user base, so you don't have to start from scratch, Injective is a great place for you to start. And if you're building in DeFi, it is the best place to start, in my opinion, because you already have access to much needed liquidity, the user base, so many different wallet access points, all of the different bridges that exist. Um, Currently in the world of EVM, you're just restricted to EVM, which I think is not how you build long-term financial applications. You shouldn't care about VM, you shouldn't care about wallets, like you should just have access to all the users and all the liquidity. So that was
Mhm.
really the vision for us as we went about the process.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that makes
and there's a
sense.
small thing I want to add here, is that our focus has always been the same, is removing the friction of developers to actually build financial applications. And now we can actually say anything you can build on Ethereum, you can build on Injective as well, but with better performance and a much, much lower cost.
No, that makes sense. I mean, it's kind of funny, Mirza, when you say like anyone could do the EVM side of things. And it's true, like we've seen so many of them, but it's important to have like that differentiating factor and then also like factor in the different things that like developers want. You know, certain chains are not easy to deploy on. Some have like no users, there's no liquidity. It's hard to even like launch a DApp or something. And so to be able to kind of like literally alleviate some of these pressure points, I feel like is a no-brainer, but yet it doesn't necessarily always happen, right?
Agreed. I mean, not to even call out a specific chain, but even the process of using a lot of EVM chains today, you have to bridge into it, right? And that will
Mhm.
take you 20 minutes. That's the truth for any ETH L2 even. But I think that's a huge bottleneck. Most users don't want to wait 20 minutes to see their assets. So the little things that we improved, the quality of life improvements are so important. For instance, being able to use the same token without needing to bridge. That's huge in my opinion, because now you've completely removed that friction of needing to bridge. You can just, when you withdraw from an exchange to Injective, it's automatically accessible on the EVM side as well. You don't need to wait to bridge from Ethereum, or just not having to wrap tokens, because people don't necessarily understand the process of migrating to a rollup or migrating to an L2. So those little friction points are what I think will really differentiate us in the long run. Um, where I think a lot of EVM chains just think, hey, we have EVM now, we're now going to get all these developers. I don't think that's how the market works anymore.
Yeah. And then for Solidity developers, Boyan, how do you kind of think about, you know, encouraging them to come over and then also just making sure that it's like an easy onboarding experience?
Yeah, so just like we said a couple of times, our goal has always been to make sure that every developer feels like home when they build that on Injective. This is why maybe we've caused a little bit of frustration in the community when we said that the testnet EVM is going to run for a couple of months before we actually go to mainnet, and we had the mainnet as a permission for I think few weeks before we open it to everyone. We just wanted to make sure that once we open the mainnet EVM, is going to be prepared for all of the developers to start building out of the box. This includes the full developer suite. All of our SDKs has been updated to fully support EVM. All of the APIs that we have, all of the EVM tooling has been launched with the public mainnet launch that we had a couple of days ago. We have scaffolding tools ready, for example, with iBuild to generate production-ready templates. We also allow from day one for all of developers to natively access the order book and the Oracle infrastructure that we have on chain. All of our dev rails and all of our documentation has been updated to add support for EVM. And obviously, we support every founder's that reach out for help to deploy and build on Injective. So the reality is most of the chains that just give you smart contracts. Injective gives you this smart contract deployment capability, but also native primitives that are battle tested for finance for 3 years, and we already had more than 8 billion of volume that you can tap into from day one.
Mhm. There's also a number of projects that launched on day one as well, like A Finance, QuickNode, Orbiter, Silo, list goes on. I can name a bunch. How has that onboarding process been? Maybe Mirza on your side, how do you kind of think about working with these teams to launch on the Injective EVM? And then what are they really trying to accomplish within, the ecosystem?
Yeah. I think from a deployment standpoint, it's the same as other EVM chains where, yeah, you have the code ready, and Solidity, a lot of the applications have existed before in the world of Ethereum. So that component was easy. I think a lot of the things we sort of were figuring out during the testnet process is how do we make sure the RPCs are working? How do we make sure the developers have all the documentation that they need? So I think that component required us to catch up quickly because it was the influx of questions was way higher than what we expected because we just weren't ready for it. Like we were very used to being in WASM land where maybe once every 2 months there will be an app, but yeah, the influx of applications with like 30 projects asking us things all at once was a lot to handle. But I think our team did it really well with our DevRels or business people. Um, yeah, and I think the biggest sort of learning experience for us is the tooling needed to onboard the developers. So a lot of the things we focused on were things that you don't necessarily see day to day. So let's say having Chainlink day one or having layer 0 or dbridge,
Yeah.
because you might want to migrate from another chain. I think those were really popular requests that we didn't necessarily expect. And yeah, I think from a deployment perspective, it was easy, but I think just setting the groundwork, because then you create a scalable platform where anyone can deploy, that component took some getting used to, I guess. But developers were very excited to work with us because we had what they were lacking on all the other chains, which is one, liquidity, and two, the primitives, because then you don't need to take months and months to deploy your code. You already have an on-chain order book. You already have binary options if you want to create prediction markets. You already have an RWA module if you want to tokenize assets. So we alleviated a lot of the groundwork they need to do from the sort of programming component. And they don't need to give out crazy incentives to source this liquidity. So a lot of the projects we actually ended up onboarding are ones that have never really raised venture funding, that are net new, that are just like two builders. And that don't have millions of dollars to give to market makers to get liquidity. So I think that was like a really great sort of product feedback in a sense, because that's what we built Injective for. It's like, hey, you don't need to shell out all this money to get this liquidity. You can just build your product and it will work.
Mhm.
So that was a great experience to know that, hey, people are actually interested now that we have this EVM layer. There's like actual pull factors that are pulling them towards Injective for the first time.
Mhm. And from like a strategic business point of view, how do you kind of think about expanding the liquidity as well? Because like it is
Yeah.
good, but then obviously you want to keep scaling it.
Yeah, you can never have enough.
Yeah.
So a couple components, right? So one is we have a lot of the major market makers that work on our chain. And what's interesting about Injective is we built this shared liquidity layer. And it sounds like fancy, but from the simplest of senses, all it means is all the market makers are working on the same exact order book and providing liquidity via the API. So it's as easy as trading on Binance or Coinbase, because the market makers are just posting maker orders or taker orders through this API. And when you build an application on Injective, you can access the same exact order book. That's not how it works on other chains. A great example, you can even think about Uniswap actually. Um, Uniswap, the liquidity that they have is siloed to just Uniswap. So if you build another AMM on ETH, you don't have access to that liquidity. You basically have to source that liquidity yourself by giving out some yield farming rewards or some other things. But on Injective, because you have this order book that can be shared, you can literally deploy your own application, let's say a lending application that's able to collateralize your assets with this order book or collateralize your funds with the order book. Or if you want to build a DEX, you can source liquidity from the order book as well. So you don't need to go out sourcing the liquidity. But you're right, it's a never-ending battle, because even though we created this shared liquidity layer, there's two prongs to it. One, you have to continue sourcing new market makers. So initially when we started with guys like Jump, but since then we've expanded to Flowdesk and Galaxy Digital and all the other big names you can think about in crypto. But then you also need to create new applications to source, because liquidity doesn't just come from market makers, it also comes from normal users. So you need to keep building interesting applications that will make users come to sort of trade on your platform to provide liquidity. And number three is you need to have I would say net new opportunities to make yield. Because I think what a lot of people think is, hey, we just give incentives and market makers will come and trade on our platform, or users will come. But then it's a very PvP battle where you have 10% yield and someone else has 11%, but they're just going to migrate to the 11%. So you need to have something sticky that makes people stay, whether it be, hey, this is as easy to use as Binance, or whether it be, hey, I can sort of post orders here, but they're releasing unique assets that I can hedge against, whether it be pre-IPO stocks or like new stocks, etc. So you need to keep iterating on new primitives that allow more liquidity to come and migrate on chain. And the last thing, and I'm not going to speak too much about it, we're also building a very unique vault product internally right now that will allow any user to sort of provide liquidity to the chain and earn yield from the actual chain revenue in a way. So it's not sort of yield farming rewards, it's like revenue of the chain, and we're distributing it to users. So yeah, those are a couple of the things for the liquidity question,
Let's
I
talk
guess.
about the vault product. What's the latest on
As
that? When's
usual,
it coming out? You can't throw that
as
out there. We
usual,
don't talk about it. Yeah.
as usual, Mirza throwing out alphas that then the engineering team feels the pressure to deliver.
Well, there you
So
go. He's setting the deadlines on this live stream.
Yes,
we
I
did.
know I didn't say any deadline and I didn't reveal
Yeah.
what it is, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. I shouldn't
The
have said it
deadline's
actually.
next week. No,
Yes,
I'm
actually.
kidding. Okay, but on points 2 and 3, Mirza, you kind of talked about the excitement, I guess, on that front, where it's like if people are excited about this, it could bring in new liquidity, etc. And you used the word stickiness, which was something I was thinking of as well, because when it comes to like traction and everything, you want something to be sticky, and in order to bring that demand in. Are there specific applications where you're seeing that more so than others, or certain categories that are kind of bringing in that wave?
Yeah, for sure. I would say, as you've been in the industry forever, so you also know this, crypto is very cyclical in terms of what people care about or what retail or users care about. In the last, I would say 6 months, people have cared a lot about stocks just because of how well the stock market has performed. I think it's beaten out most cryptos actually. So we've seen crazy demand for products that we've launched on chain, let's say NVIDIA shares on chain, or pre-IPO shares for SpaceX. So unique products that you don't necessarily get access to in the real world. Like for instance, you might get access to NVIDIA shares through your Robinhood account, but what you don't have through your Robinhood account is being able to go 10x leverage and trade on margin, which is more interesting for crypto native users. And that's been proven in practice as well. And again, this is not to call out any other product, but I think a lot of people thought that when they had on-chain stocks, they would get a lot of users. But the reality is, when a lot of these chains released on-chain stocks, they were spot stocks. So there wasn't actually the demand that people thought that there would be, because the reality is most people who want to buy stocks have access to it through Robinhood or other channels. What people in crypto seem to care about is crypto perps, the being able to go on leverage, being able to degen trade, being able to trade on margin. I think that's what's interesting, and that's what's driven the usage. I think even currently, I think we've done 6 billion in volume in just these different perps on the stock side, which is quite a great milestone to have. So I think products like that is a good way, or a sticky product that we didn't expect before. That's people have really loved. We also found interesting sort of levels of stickiness for liquid staking on our platform, weirdly enough, because one good thing about Injective is our yield is about 12%, which is way higher than many other chains. So if you have loop staking products or ways to maximize that yield or liquid stake that, then you have a lot of sticky demand just because the yield beats out treasury yields, it beats out staking yields on most other chains. So that's always been great. But that also goes to show you that people in crypto, again, only really care about like ways to make net new money or net new yield. So that's why I think these products have been really sticky for us. And the final thing I would say that's been weirdly like great for us is community build projects. It's like the meme projects or the NFT projects where they've just created this cult. So even though obviously we're not in the greatest market ever, they've built this sticky platform where the same like loyal user base is continuing to sort of expand or bring new users in from other chains for these interesting assets, even though like no one cares about NFTs anymore. But like when you have this cultish community, they sort of stick for a long, long time, which I think a lot of crypto companies sort of ignore, like the value of community and how sticky they can be, because those are really going to be the users that stay even when the market might be down. Most users will leave when the money goes away, but the community will stick around. So I think that's a very important highlight, I would say, about Injective and the community we've built over time.
I agree 100% on the community note. I also wanted to bring up iBuild, which Injective announced back at the Injective Summit in July. I feel like, it's been a couple months now, so I'd love to get an update from Boyan on kind of like what the demand for that has been like. And then, from July to now, what are you really trying to hope to accomplish with this release? Has the kind of mission and objective of it grown, or is it still like the same?
Yeah, so when we announced it on the summit, we already had plans and started working on iBuild. I think a couple of months before. We always want to make sure that developer experience on Injective is unparalleled, because we believe that once you have this developer experience improved and better, we will see new dApps, new communities being built around the dApps, new ways to get yield, as Mirza mentioned, and etc. So iBuild was like a culmination of all of our work that we've put into the documentation, into the SDKs, to make sure that we have a product where users, not only those that are familiar with how they can build on Cosmwasm or Solidity, but everyone can have a quick start button to build on Injective. So basically, as you guys are probably familiar, iBuild is a toolkit that lets developer generate fully working Injective projects with simple commands written in plain English. So you can go and say, hey, I want to build this kind of app, and it will scaffold and build most of the UI and the API and the backends for you. So you just have to be creative and know how to explain your idea to this command prompt. So again, we built this because team keep asking us about best practice starter kits, and we really realized that everyone was rebuilding the same scaffolding over and over again. So we've built all of this years of experience into improving the developer experience into iBuild, and again, everyone can go from idea to a working prototype in minutes. It enables everyone to become a developer, and as an alpha to share to your visitors, we are working on adding support for Solidity smart contract on iBuild, which is something that is going to go well in pair with our EVM launch that we had a couple of days ago.
Amazing. There you go. On that front too, though, like how do you kind of see developer pools changing with this new tool? Are they shifting their mindsets at all, or is it kind of like building on top of what they already thought?
Well, we are seeing a lot more creative ways to explore what people can build on chain. Actually, not only on Injective, because it's from an idea to realization and prototype. It actually with the existing toolkit that we see in the industry, it's hard to see your product go live. With iBuild, you can, as I've said, write a couple of messages to the prompt, and you actually visualize what your idea can be. So we see it as a starting point for developers to onboard themselves into the crypto industry in general, and also Injective. So by the end of this year, in general, going into next year, with iBuild and the EVM launch, we want to see a more smooth onboarding wave of builders with more creative dApps built on chain. And also, we want to make sure that iBuild is I'd say better suited for production-ready smart contracts deployment. Right now, you can. One of the limitations that we have on iBuild is the deployment part. People have to know how to deploy their dApps on the server. We've helped them by writing guides, but we believe that once we embed this into the product itself, it will be much easier for people to one-click build and one-click deploy and release. So I think that's about it.
Yeah. I also want to talk more about the community buyback as well, which for those who don't know is the new monthly on-chain event where users can commit Injective tokens to earn a pro rata share of ecosystem revenue, while all committed tokens get permanently burned. I see you guys nodding, I think, so I got that correct?
Yeah, no, that's well
Okay,
explained.
good, good. Can you kind of share, Mirza, maybe why the team decided to swap to this initiative from the older auction model to now doing this?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. So I would say the main impetus was, and I'll explain very quickly how it used to work. So how it used to work is on a weekly basis, we would collect the fees on chain. So let's say from the trading fees or lending protocol fees, et cetera, it would all be collected into a basket. And then someone would be able to come in and bid and win that basket. So let's say there's $200,000 worth of fees collected in a particular week. You'd be able to bid using INJ. So it's an ARB opportunity effectively. So let's say you bid 200, $190,000 worth of INJ, right? So there's a $10,000 spread. So the INJ that's used to bid is automatically burned, and then you get $200,000, but even though you paid 190K in INJ. So that's the basic math. The issue we ran into is it was entirely dominated by whales, right? Because very few users have $200,000 to bid, right? So for the longest time, we were thinking, how can we create this process that would be a bit more egalitarian, I guess, where more people can participate and win in the rewards or earn this yield or earn this ARB opportunity. Um, there were two big issues when we came around to it, right? One, most users don't necessarily understand like how to ARB. It's not the easiest process to explain to like a novice person. And the second part is how do we make it so that the revenue can be sliced up so more people can participate? So that's the simplest way to understand it. So on the back end, what we did is we took the auction and we split up the basket into, let's say, 100 different pieces or 200 different pieces. So now users can bid instead of with thousands of INJ with like 50 INJ or 100 INJ, which is a couple $100, let's say, right?
Yeah.
So you make the process a bit more fair, um, a lot more fair actually. And secondly, it allows you to earn revenue immediately. So a lot. The issue we had with burns in general in the crypto industry is we see it as like not necessarily a way that works with the ecosystem long term. So we wanted our burn even before the revenue meta, like which started in my opinion like a year ago, um, for everything on the chain to be revenue based. Like our burn auction first came out back in 2021 alongside our mainnet. So we've been doing this for many many years. So what we wanted to do was have a process where yes, you are helping to burn the token, which is great. But let's be honest, an average user doesn't care about burning your token. An average user, again, cares about their yield. So we wanted
Mhm.
to make it very simple for them and understand like, hey, if you bid with 50 INJ, there's an opportunity for you to earn 10 INJ effectively for free, which is a really great. It might not seem like a lot for a lot of people, but it's a lot of money. Like you being able to earn like an extra 150, $200 for not really much work is actually great. It's a great passive income opportunity. So what we did is we create a process where this is a passive income opportunity for users where they're using to bid with INJ, but on the back end, the chain also accrues value because we're obviously helping to burn the token. So it's positive on both sides. Like we made it entirely user centric and value based for them from a yield perspective, but for us, it's burning the token. So that's how
Mhm.
it currently works. And we started this. We had the first burn auction, this new burn auction, the monthly buyback, about 2 weeks ago. So the next one is coming up, but you pretty much get to do this every month. So it's a passive income opportunity every single month. and the tokens are getting burned every single month. So it's sort of like a great positive feedback loop, or flywheel for everyone in the ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, it might be kind of self-explanatory, but I was going to say, like, what has the feedback been since the implementation?
Yeah,
It's been great.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I can say a few words from a product perspective. The goal here was also to, as we realize right now in the crypto industry, a lot of emphasis is put into the buybacks of tokens. But we had this on chain for as long as Injective exists, and we've been burning INJ since literally day one on mainnet. But as Mirza explained, it was accessible to whales only. So we also wanted to make sure that the community is aware about this process and understands the deflational purpose, the deflational component of Injective in the protocol itself. As Mirza explained, the community was participated in the first round, like I think 2 weeks ago, and we are opening the new one in the upcoming days. So it's going to be another yield opportunity for everyone to participate.
What is kind of the ultimate hope for it then? Because we're still in the early days, right? So like if we could fast forward a year, 2 years, how do you guys kind of think about it? And like, what is the North Star for it?
Yeah. I would say the North Star is continuing to expand the revenue on the chain, because as the revenue goes up, and I think it really will, because we already have so many more applications, so many more innovative products that are waiting to launch as well in the coming weeks and months. The revenue should expand or accelerate quite substantially, which is great for the end users, because then there's actually like a bigger pie for them to share. So instead of, let's say, the burn being worth 200K in a given month, now it's worth $1 million. So there's just way more money to be split between the community members. And that's what the hope is. I think currently our on-chain revenue sits at, I think, $6 million per year, which is pretty good. It puts us actually like in one of the more higher ranked chains in terms of revenue. But I'd love to see that expand like 5x, 10x in the coming year or two. Because as that expands, the burn, of course, goes up, and the revenue opportunity for users actually goes up as well. So that's what I would say the North Star is.
Yeah,
What
and
about
from
you?
a
Mhm.
protocol perspective, what we've done in the past is expanded. In the beginning, the community buyback burn was only occurring value from the trading activity happening on Injective. Then we've expanded this to allow every dApp to contribute to the community buyback as a piece of their fees. And now with the EVM launch, we've also expanded this to the EVM side layer of Injective. So now even EVM dApp developers can contribute to the buyback, the community buyback process with the fees that they accrue.
I also kind of want to talk about end of year. You know, we're almost like 6 weeks out from 2026, and I think a lot of teams like to kind of talk about like, okay, these are the things we'd like to get done within this time frame. So on the side of Injective EVM and maybe everything we've discussed, what are some of the goals you guys are trying to achieve or like really lock in before we go into the new year?
I can touch very high level without, again, giving away too much. There are a couple product optimizations we're definitely going to be making to allow you to access EVM more easily, whether it be on ramps, integrating some of the new providers that have come on, like let's say layer zeros of the world more integrated onto the chain, or even Chainlink. Um, but a lot of the processes are developer related, where you'll see optimizations where more dApps are just going live. You'll see many more. I think we announced like already 25, 30 dApps going live, close to 40 actually. But there's probably like 15 more waiting, that are going live in the coming weeks or in the next month or two. So I think that will be really exciting to see. From a pure product perspective, we'll also be optimizing some interesting sort of like products on our side, like whether it be the bridge, whether it be Helix itself. And most importantly, we're also working from the business standpoint to lock down a couple of pretty major deals, which I'm hoping are signed in the coming weeks. So we can maybe even announce one or two before end of year. So I would say, yeah, I'm trying to not give away answers while being as
Yeah,
vague
what
as
kind of
possible.
major
But yes,
deals? You can't just
yeah.
say that, Mirza. You know I'm gonna ask.
Well, from a
Um,
technical
yeah,
perspective, I'll stop you
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
Mirza,
you're like,
before
I'm
you
gonna
reveal
jump
anything
in and move
else.
on. Yeah.
yeah.
before you put us more in the spotlight. From a technical standpoint, what we want to do by the end of this year is to make sure that the EVM can scale. We've battle tested the chain before. We've battle tested on testnet. We have a lot of mainnet replicas that we run before we released actually on mainnet. And we want to make sure that the performance of the chain matches what we've promised to the user. So far, so good. I think we are not even tapping 5% of the capability of the chain, but we want to make sure that everything is smooth and performant. So that's our hope, and we are going to on the chain team, we are going to be monitoring this very closely, and hopefully we're not, well, we are almost certain that we're not going to encounter any issues, but hopefully we'll reach at the stage where we need to scale more, because that will mean we'll have huge adoption, 100x that we have right now.
And maybe this might bleed into the next question, but kind of looking into 2026, how do you guys think about, roadmap and what you're most excited about and really what you want in general?
Wow, this has not happened the entire time. But yes,
Yeah.
Jacqueline, you froze for a second.
I think her internet
Okay,
is down.
no worries at all. We can take it. I kind of got the main question. So goals for 2026, and what we have coming up. So I would say on a high level, one, many more applications, not just like sort of forks from other chains, but net new applications that allow you to generate yield, that allow you to trade interesting products, whether it be prediction markets, or other sort of interesting applications in the RW or tokenization space. I think you'll also see a lot more tokenized assets going live on Injective, that we previously couldn't have, because we didn't have access to EVM. So a lot of new applications are on the tokenization side will also be going live. And from a product perspective, I will let Boyan sort of chime in, but you'll see a lot of quality of life improvements across the EVM layer, the stack, new tooling, new stable coins, and more. But Boyan, if you want to shed some light as well. That was so interesting
well,
because you guys were stopping in and out. That was actually really funny.
Okay, I think I'm back. I'm
Yeah, you are.
unfrozen. Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Right. This is the final question anyway. So of course this happens on the last one, but yes, Boyan, please take it.
Yeah, well, from a product perspective, I would just say this Vault product that Birza mentioned is going to be one of the highlights. And I'll just leave it at that without revealing too much and getting myself into trouble with the engineering team.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Mirza, Boyan, thank you so much for taking the time. Super interesting what's going on your end, and I'm excited to see what happens in 2026 and looking forward to talking